Right guys, so welcome back again to NZ Outlaw Customs. So, yesterday, not sure if in this video or the last video, but we stripped the gearbox down. Now all the gears, they've got a bit of wear on them, which is understandable. It's done a few miles, that box. But everything looks like it should be okay, but maybe except the top gear, lock-up gear where it locks the main shaft, the two shafts together, so it's one to one. It's got quite a bit of wear in the edge of those gears, or on the on the gear where it locks, and the same in there. I don't know if you can see that or not, but because where it locks into it, it's a possibility. It's worn pretty square, which is a good thing. It's not really tapered off or anything like that, but it's a point that if it was going to go, that's probably the first one that's going to start giving you issues if you happen to do a few miles. Now there's a possibility, it's not to say it's going to happen, but there's a possibility that this car may go do the Peking to Paris, which is, I don't know how many miles, a lot, 3,000 or 4,000, I'm not sure exactly the mileage, but I can find out. But so, like, the last thing you want is a top gear that's going to fail and start jumping out of gear. Everything else should be fine. Like, it's a wee bit worn on the leading edge, like a little rounded off, where obviously the gears lock into each other, which is understandable. But when they're actually in full mesh, they're not going to jump out. But there's a possibility that this, just because of the way it's worn, that may happen. And it's maybe because there's been a bit of play backwards and forwards in these shafts, and it's been pushing forward and just wearing, because it's not fully engaged like this. It's back, I don't know, like a 1/16 of an inch or something like that, and it's just worn those edges harder. Well, that's where it's worn in, and it's stayed there because it was, I think this is the original box out of it. So, like, because it was doing a lot of farm work and hard work, that was probably doing everything in top, because those old things, they did, basically first was just to get you moving, and you could basically go from straight to second to top within, a few seconds, and just those things would chug around and pull and top all day long. Dad's rugby stars the same. Once it's in top gear, you can just about drive around you can almost pull up to a T intersection, and as long as you don't have to directly stop, you can just chug around the corner and just keep going, right? You don't even have to change it at top gear. It's not like a modern car where you've got to go right back down to first and pull away and then toot away and then change right up to, how many gears your car's got, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, like nowadays. Like those old cars, you could, as long as you were still rolling, you could just and just putt down the frickin' road, and you're always in top gear. So it's got a lot of wear, but it's worn square, and it possibly be fine. Like, if it was just going to be tooting around here doing a few just local runs and maybe going out and doing the odd run, it would be fine. Like, you would try it. But if it is going to end up over there at some point, with everything that's going on around the world, like, who freaking knows? But say 5 years down the track, if everything's settled down a bit, he might go do it. Like, he's about 10 years older than me. Like, I'm 47 this year, so he's 57. So, like, maybe in another 3 or 4 years, if things settle down around the world, like, it's quite possible that the opportunity comes up and you might go over there. And the last thing you want is top gear failing when you've got to do 3,000 or 4,000 miles in an old car. So there's another gearbox upstairs. It's a cast one though, but it's very similar looking. So I'm going to go up there, I'm going to take a couple of spanners with me for a start off, and have a look, pull the lid off it, the gear stick, and have a wee nosy in there and just have a look. Because all we really need is that front piece here, and this. We'll get away with just changing that. If the other gears don't look very good, if it's better, we would get away with that as long as the gear sets are the same. So that's the plan. Like, we will use this if need be, but we could get it built up if it was able to be. Like in both those pieces, it could be built up and just reprofiled. But yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like the last thing you want to do, if it does happen to do like a massive tour like that, you don't want top gear failing. Like it could just, it's like anything. Like something can break and explode. Like break a crankshaft or anything stupid like that. But you last thing you want is a top gear. All of a sudden you get 1,000 miles into it and it starts jumping out of gear all on you all the time or anything stupid like that. So we're trying to avoid that. If we get a slightly better top gear and input shaft, we'll change it. Or we'll just change the whole gear set. If it happens to be the same, we'll just put it in that box. Crikey, I'm making about to find it up there. This is going to be entertaining. I found something I'm after. Very good. Need some more of these. There's a couple other old door fucking skeletons up here. We might find the bits. Alright, wish me luck in here. Working here. Where did that freaking gearbox end up? Actually, it's on the other side. It's right in front of me. Yeah, it's perfect. It's got no top on it either, does it? So yeah, we have to really dig into that box. It is very similar, but it's cast. I knew it was somebody handy, but I was just on the wrong fucking side. Yes. So yeah, this is the... Oh, Jesus. God. It might be a bit of an archaeologically dig, because it's had no lid on it. Forgot it had no top on it. So this is a full cast box. It's very, very similar. It's just all cast. But yes, let's start. Oh, that gear's worn off. Or is it just different? I don't know. Doesn't look terribly hopeful though. Not terribly hopeful. I might throw a rope around it and lower it down. At least we might be able to, so we can get a bit of a clean up in there and just have a better look once we get it free. But when it looks like that in there, it's had a lot of crap and shit in there. It doesn't look very hopeful. There's a lot of crap in there. Been a lot of water in there. Don't look very hopeful. Don't look very hopeful. It does show me how that clutch works. It might be worth chasing. Right, just looking at this other old girl. Just trying to see how that sits. Because I've got those. And there's bolts. It's freaking hard to see, but where that is, there's like a big domed, or big like flathead, tapered head bolt. Okay, yeah, and then it's got like a like one of those raised washers. So I might need to make something or build something that looks like that. Just looking at stuff while I'm up here. This old darling. I may have to rob some handles off one of these hoods up here. I think I've only got 2 down there. But I did find the other little, found 2 more pieces that go in here while I'm up here. Still got to get that gearbox down. As you can see all the crap that's up here. Sort of do a bit of a looky round. So there's all sorts of, like there's heaps of bits and pieces from the other cars. Like this is all the other different grill shells we've got. So I think these are like, that's like a big 6 one. I'm not sure. That one that's got the swoop on the top of it. Just had like these couple of 3 different ones up here, and there is some other ones. Like there's plenty of like gutses for radios too. There's one there. Like that's one. Well, that's not one. That's one for that car, I think. But there's other stuff buried amongst here. Plus the one that's on here. This is one thing we haven't actually got for that car, but we haven't looked into that yet either. But this poor old darling, she's in bad repair. But the steering box still works. And we know the motor's probably gone, but it's good reference. Oh, it's probably buggered, but yeah, you never know. You might pull it out of there, it might be fine. No, it might be rebuildable, but who knows? I was just actually looking at the, not sure if you can see, but the bolts, the dome nut, so it's got a big, nice big dome nut underneath there. So I need to, sorts of things I need to remember. I'm just looking at these as well. Just trying to get references in my head. But these are still going to go on, that car down there. We've got things that are similar to this that go on there. I've got one. I may have to come up here and I'm not even sure if these are broken off. I think these are broken off. I think they're meant to be out here. So we need those. I think I've got one down there. So these are different. But yeah, all sorts of bits up here. But there's another cowl and like dashboard, like surround. This has still got that stuff in it as well. So I tried to get the bolts off the bottom of this for the windscreen post, but they're different on these models. That's a completely different bolt setup. And they're studs with nuts, not bolts. But yeah, so that's what's up here. And this old darling looks like. That may be rebuilt by one day. By me, I don't know. So, I gave this I set the whole thing in the wash tank and just gave it a bit of a rinse through with a simple green, and I've just sprayed the crap out of it with some CRC, hopefully to maybe lube it up a little bit. I don't know what this gear set's going to be like. It looks like it's in reasonable shape underneath the shit and the crap, but I don't know. It may be, maybe we get them down and get them bead blasted or something like that, and they might be okay. But what we really want is just this gear in the front shaft, if it's the same. It appears that this box is the same, except it's just cast. Not 100% sure on that. I'm not sure if the dimensions are different or anything like that. But when I get it apart, hopefully I can get at least the front shaft out of it and get this back one back enough that I can get this gear off, and then we can compare notes and just see if it is exactly the same, and whether the shaft size is the same, and it's going to accept the bearing and whatever. So yeah, I don't know, but it's worth. It appears to be maybe in slightly better shape, but this edge here doesn't look as worn from what I can see, but I can't see all the way around it. It won't turn. So I'll just try and see if I can get the clutch fork and bearing and all that sort of stuff off it. Try that first, see if I can get that out of the road. Because the clutch is different. That's one thing that is different. The way that works is different. It's actually part of, that's something obviously they went away from the shaft to the cast housing. That one there, where are we? Yeah. So through here, on the aluminium box, there's a shaft runs through from side to side. It's kind of, you can see the, I guess you'd call it because this has probably been modified from the same moulding maybe, but it's just been made in cast instead of aluminium. But yeah, it's kind of, it would have run down through here, and then the fork comes from the bottom, whereas this one comes from the side here. It's in a slightly different position. So yeah, that's a little bit different, but the rest of it looks very, very similar. Maybe it looks like if I can get that pin out of there, which might be fucking fun, if I can get that clutch fork out of there, we can get the bolts undone for the front bearing and hopefully get all that out of the road. And then we might be able to see whether we can get that front shaft pushed out of there. And then go from there and see if we can maybe get the back off it. This will be fun. I'm probably going to heat all this shit up. I can see it. This is going to be a hell of a battle.
We'll see if it will pull that whole, push that whole fucking thing. As long as it's got that same retainer thingy in behind that, which it looks like it does. Looks like it fucking does. It looks like it does. Yeah, so we got that bit. And then the retainer that holds the bearing. It's holding the bearing and got the thing on there like this, I'll show you. Just in case you're confused and you don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. This bit goes in behind that bit with the bearing in it, and then that poke through there like that. And hopefully maybe either the bearing move or the whole fucking thing move. They just speak up if you can't see what I'm doing. Yeah, so hopefully, yeah, either the bearing will push out or the whole fucking thing will push out. I'm hoping, and then we might better get that off this bit. Because it looks like it could be stuck. Stuck. So it's a bit different. Let's put over there. So that's the same size then. That's a good start. So yeah. So instead of being like that one, it's got the fork on it, and the fork was through there. As you can see the reminiscence of the holes in the casting. I just modified the casting and reused it. Right. To the Black Cave, no? What are you talking about, son? I don't know. Right. So listen to praise. I'm just sure if fucking snake. It's over top. What that is? I think. It's not sure. I thought that might have been up in there for a bit. It may not. Like just a freaking half an inch, if that. Don't know if it goes up there anymore or not. It's cheap.
cheated a little bit. I don't really want to, I'm kind of trying to use that to look, but when they there too, probably not going to see much. Actually, I might poke in from this way, maybe it might be easier for you to see something. Just freaking shit moves. Hopefully. See something there. Hopefully. Alright, let's give it a wee push and just see what happens. A wee push. Oh, that's sweet. Perfect. It's doing exactly what I wanted it to do. As long as we get this down far enough. Pull this front shaft out here. I should get it now anyway. I'll let that back up. Perfect. Exactly what we wanted. Exactly what we wanted. Heidi is press. It's 20 tonne. We need to actually finish putting it up properly, but it's just going to actually put the stabiliser on and put the pressure gauge on the top. But we'll get around to that at some point. We were hoping to move all that shit. I call those blue shutters, but haven't quite got there yet. Right, I'll move this back around. Cool, that worked perfectly. You know, for all the crap and shit and everything that's in there, it's amazing. It's still, you know, moving within reason, if you know what I mean. Taking a little bit of persuasion, but like it's not dead in the water as we, you know, as it could be. Grab the gearbox and bring it back and get the last bits out of it. And let's see if we can get those pieces. Right. I gotta get the cord. A little powder. Right, have a look at these gears and see if we can come up with anything. Outlaw Edge. Oh, we just put up a video. We better have a look. Right, what I'm trying to do at the moment, I'll actually just I just started, but I think it's going to move this here off here. If I can get this to come off, at least then I might be able to put this piece in the press and try and press the shaft out of it, and then we can work on the bearing after that. But if I can get this to come off this bearing, at least I might be able to push on here, if you know what I mean, and actually get a decent purchase on it. But I'll probably have to heat this and then push it out to get it to break free, but I might just heat this and give it a tap, and turn it and tap it and turn it and whatever, and see if I can get this piece off here. I've actually just run this over with a wire brush on the just on the grinder, and actually the gears look actually pretty good, like compared to this one. Definitely a lot less worn. Not perfect, but a lot less worn. Definitely less worn. It's worn further in, which is not a bad thing. So it's definitely a better set of gears. As long as we can get them cleaned up, we might just put the whole set in, or at least get away with this, if you know what I mean, and have another set of gears. So, like I said earlier on, if he did happen to do the Paris to Peking, he could take a whole set of gears with him, and maybe another set of bearings if he needed to. And if something did die on the side of the road, well, he's got spares. with the housing, the casting being the same but different, I suppose worst comes to worst, you could drill that to work like this one, but it's it's not exactly the same. So, but at least if you had a set of gears, that would get you out of the crap, in an old grill like this, because you never know when something's going to break. You never know. Bit of fatigue somewhere and something is, and next thing you're lying on the side of the road with a box full of bits, not gears. Anyway, I'll give this a wee heat, see if we can get this pushed off, and by that stage it'll probably be lunchtime. Yucky. Yucky. But we got it off. Let's start. We're slowly making progress. Oh, shit, don't wreck the phone. Hold the phone. Shit. Oh, I don't. No, at least it's just fucking housing. It wasn't the shaft. It wasn't the big shaft. We don't want to drop the shaft. Settle down. Getting all fucking excited over a shaft. It's fucking rusty and dirty. You might go give it a wee washy. But check the time and give it a wee washy. And it might run over with that wire wheel. Just to get the shit out of the fucking road. Yeah, right, it's basically 12 now, so I'm gonna go have some lunch. So yeah, I'll just left that that shaft and bearing and whatever, just soaking in the simple green. Put that housing down in there. Get that all together. I've got the other gear, the other side of the gear, actually soaking in that other shit as well. Just in that different brew, just to see what cleans up easier. But yeah, so at least after lunch I should be able to I'll get the bearing off, and then I'll give them a rinse down and whatever, and then I might take both of them round to the old man's and see if we can give them a clean up in the wire buff wheel. Since I don't really have one here, I'd like one for on the big grinder. I'd like a big wheel on a grinder, but I don't have one. I've only just got angle grinder type ones here, unfortunately. You know, again, one of those things, tools need, but just don't have at the moment. Anyway, so it's kind of looking hopeful for those gears. At least that shaft doesn't look too bad. It cleans up alright. And as long as that other gear cleans up alright, we might better make a decent gearbox. But if the rest of the gears clean up really good, they might be better off in that box and just keep the other set of gears together as a spare set if something happens, you know what I mean? And like if you did go do a tour like that, the Peking to Paris, which is, I don't know how many miles, but it's freaking huge. You know, that's the sort of things that you would take with you, you know, a spare set of gears, a couple of axles, you know, like probably a whole spare wooden wheel. We're looking to see if we can get another band for the band where the spokes actually go into, and actually just make the wheel but don't cut the centre. We'll cut the centre to the front hub and then make a spacer so it will fit the back hub, because it's just the diameters are different. One's big, one's small, so we could make just make it to fit the front hub if it needs it, and if you happen to break a wheel or something stupid, then you could swap it over and put it on. But if you happen to break a back wheel, at least then you could slip a collar in and put it on the back wheel, if you know what I mean, because the bolt holes are all the same. It's just, yeah, the centre of the back, what do you want to call it, the back hub is, because it's solid and it's got no bearings in it, the bearings are actually in the diff housing, or axle housing. Like there's no bearings on that, whereas the front ones, obviously the bearings are in the housing, so on the hub, so it's larger. So yeah, you could just make an adapter, so if you really needed that wheel to go on the front or the back, you could, if you broke one, which is, you know, quite possible doing something so like that. You know, you don't have to get, I don't know, just end up in a real strange situation and break a wheel, you know, like doing that sort of thing. It's quite possible. But anyway, I'll get out of here, go have some lunch, come back, and we'll have another assessment of those things after they had a soak for another hour or so, and we'll go tack them with a big wire brush. And I think we're heading in a good direction. At least then we can get bearings and get that on its way too. So I do have part numbers, as long as they are the right ones. Yeah, we'll be good. So we'll spot you later on. Right, so decided I was going to sit down. It's just easy to frickin' do shit with this. So these gear sets are basically identical. Okay, we've got the difference of the aluminium casting for the box to the cast iron casting, and apart from the clutch mechanism, the way it works, you know, it works like this on the cast iron box, whereas it works through the bell housing, that front part of the bell, or the back part of the bell housing near the box, through a hole, which is actually still in the cast iron box. It's just hasn't been drilled. But the only other thing that's different, apart from obviously the clutch and the casting, which is almost the same thing, just different materials, is the input shaft is very, very slightly different. And so this is what we've got. This is for the aluminium box. Right? And the difference is, as you can see, this has got an oil groove back, cutting it to bring the oil back, and it's got no hole in there. No hole in the shaft to let the oil run through from here or back through here to help lubricate. Obviously that must have been a small issue at some point and they modified something too. So what it means is this one here, you can see there, it's got the groove cut in there, so the oil was lubricated, or the shaft was lubricated from this, not from in here. And this one here's got no groove cut in it. You can kind of see there. Yeah, there you go. There's no groove cut in that. So that's what the differences are. Apart from that, it's freaking identical. So I'm just not quite sure what to do here. You could, if you got cunning, you could cut this off and use this over top of this. But this is the other little difference. Because of the way the clutch works, it's now a different height, it's different length. Whether that would matter, but it's like half, it's probably half to 3/4 of an inch longer. So in theory you could cut that off, but because of that ring, the groove in it, you probably can't. But if I slide this one in here, so you basically got all that sticking out clear of it. Whereas on this one here, this is a bit of a pain because I've tried to clean some of it. I haven't really tried yet, but I've just given it a bit of a cleaner. So hopefully I can get the shaft back in there without being a pain in the ass because it was half stuck in. But anyway, it's not going to go in nicely. But if I roughly hold that where it needs to be, it's up over the end of this. It's on this piece, not back down here like the other one. So I don't know if it's going to be a problem or not. Whether you could get away with running that grooved shaft in the grooved housing, I don't know. At the end of the day, you could probably epoxy that up. Put some epoxy in there and clean that up and just fill that up and just run it the other way, I guess, if you know what I mean. You could do strange things like that if you really want to, because that fits in there. But yeah, see, the other one comes up to here, it's like a bit that much longer, so it's a good, yeah, it's a bit over half an inch, 3/4 of an inch, somewhere in that ballpark, you know what I mean. So yeah, that's a bit of a dilemma. We're really hoping that was the same. The only thing you could do, it's not ideal, is run the one of these, which is off this box, on that shaft, but it does fit better. Where is it? Yeah. Because this is quite worn on that edge, it sort of wants to stop there early. It's probably not too bad on here either, if you know what I mean. So like, yeah, I don't know, whether you run it and try it, but yeah, it's a bit of a pain. Like really, you could possibly, you could probably do the same on this. You could probably epoxy that up too, and just smooth it off. There's funny things you can do to really make it work. But yeah, that's probably the main difference. I'll have to go again. I'm going to go talk to Dad and just see what he reckons whether you get away with it. You probably would, but yeah, I don't know whether those two grooves, I suppose once it's in the bearing and all that sort of shit, it's probably not really going to worry it, but yeah, I don't know, I just hate to see, because it's like that and it's a little bit different, it pisses all everywhere, if you know what I mean. That's designed to help lubricate the shaft but run it back in, I guess. I don't really but this is all, that's the other thing too, this has got holes in here, whereas that housing hasn't, so if you use that housing and cut it down, you have to drill holes in. And that, yeah, that is cast anyway, so, but yeah. So that's the differences, so that's the issues we're running into. So basically, yeah, the box is very much identical, it's just cast out of a different material, the housing, the clutch works different, and the input shaft is just that little bit different. So yeah, which is a bit of a pain. It's almost the same but not quite. So yeah, we'll go find out whether Dad reckons whether you get away with it, because the gears are better. The whole gear set's better, as long as it cleans up okay. This one, I actually put these, I actually swapped the over to the walnut and the blasting cabinet and gave these a bit of a hit. They're not perfectly clean, well, it hasn't taken all the shit off, but I just wanted to give them a bit of a good polish up, I guess you want to call it, with that media, but without being aggressive. You know what I mean? Just to try and clean these gears up to make sure that they weren't horrendously pitted or anything. I think they would polish up alright, you know, they'd clean up alright. There's no major damage, and that seems to synchro in, or seems to slip in. Like I think it's designed to be worn down, but whether that's meant to be like that or whether it's actually meant to be like that, but they're worn anyway. But it's not as worn as that one. It's just there, that groove there, and the way that oils is different. And is that going to cause a big problem if we swap that over and then don't run that other front housing to combat it, if you know what I mean? So yeah, there's probably a few different ways around it, but it might be just as easy to get those gears built up. I don't know. I'll go see what the old man thinks. Because everything else is the same, I'm pretty sure of it. It's close enough, if you know what I mean. Like the way that's been cut is slightly different. That's just been cut a little bit deeper. But it all looks the same to me. Alright, we'll do some more research. Alrighty, so I just set the gearboxes side by side the casings. So you can see they're very similar, except that one's aluminium, that one's cast. Now I thought this here was in the same place, but no, it's not. Even though it's there and it's not used on this, it's on top of the box, not down here. So that's interesting. So it's on the other side of the main shaft. It's on the top side and not the bottom side. So that's, yeah, that could be like a 27. I don't know, but I think this is probably, you know, they probably used that box and drilled it, and then they've changed again, but used the same box, but just made the bolt-on plate on this front the same. The other thing they did was, just for interest's sake, in here, on here, they've put a twin screw ore gallery in the bushes, where on this, it's just a straight cut line through there. So obviously they have improved the box, not whether it was necessarily a weak link, but you know, like they've obviously improved the oiling between whenever this one is 25 to whenever this one was made. You know, whether it was 6 months, a year, 2 years down the track. Yeah, there's a difference there. Like you probably could put one in the other, but in the car, but you'd have to modify, you know, linkages and bits and pieces, and then find the bits to fit that. Whereas I think I've got all the bits to fit this. You know what I mean? So like you'd probably find that selector would fit bolt straight on there, and that's probably what's killed that one. They've totally taken the selector off that to using something else at some stage, and never put the old one back on, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame it was left open, but because it's a really good set of gears in there. Like really, like somebody, if it wasn't left like that, it could have been quite easily used. Or it could be used, you know, if you really spent some time and cleaned it up. But yeah, alright, I'm going to go now. Now they've actually given everything a bit more of a clean up. I clean these stuff, I actually just run them through the, not that it's come up that clean, but I just gave them a quick blast through the walnut, and then just to give them more clean up. But anyway, I'm going to carry on and go see Dad. Righty guys, so I've been around to Dad's, had a bit of a discussion with him, and he thinks it should be fine using this other shaft, because obviously all that is to keep the oil coming back into the gearbox, and that's got the same thing in there. He said worst comes to worst, you could just modify the other front housing to look like that one but not have that ring in it or whatever, or we could epoxy that up and just ream it out, you know, so it's the right thing, and just get rid of that oil groove out of there. That's really the only difference. So what we're planning on doing, if we're going to give everything a really good clean up in this full gear set, because it is better. We had a good look at it, there's been some improvements. So obviously there was been, you know, obviously when they were developing cars over the you know, a few couple of years period, I'm guessing that's a later gearbox. They've improved things, like they've cut the gears on the inside of here, so this is the one that's worn funny. So in here, and the inside of this one, I've back cut it so it doesn't tend to wear like that one does. So yeah, this one here is worn like that because of the way this is made. So they've changed that so it shouldn't do it, if you know what I mean. That's why this one's worn like that, and it's worn the edge off. You can see that there, hopefully you can see that there. And this one here has worn slightly further back, and it's actually left a lip so it can't slide off, if you know what I mean. It's worn a little bit further in, so the back cut this a little bit further so it fits better, and just obviously so it doesn't wear that off. No, that's probably with testing, they've discovered that, and they're going, you know, so it probably might have shown early wear, if you know what I mean. You know, obviously depending on how far the vehicle had been when they were testing it, road testing, and you know, they, you know, probably as they released them, they probably road tested a couple, you know, done a shitload of miles and then brought them back, pulled them all apart, and they thought, rightio, that's wearing a little bit funny. It may be an issue. We'll change it for the next year or next run of gearboxes. So, and they've probably maybe gone from aluminium to cast iron to maybe for strength, but there's nothing wrong with that box. The only thing I have to do is double check to make sure that these are the same length. There's no difference in length. Like that gearbox does have like little spacer washers on the end, obviously because it's run against aluminium, not cast, where that's just machined to fit. They've just machined the ends of it so it's dead true. So I needed to make sure that is exactly the same length as that. You know, and just a few little things like that, but we should be able to just run that whole gear set in there, and it's better, the lubrication and it's better, so it shouldn't be much of a problem at all. which is really handy. I think the shafts should be all the same, so I might run the shaft from the aluminium box, the main shaft, because it's in a little bit better condition. The back main shaft, it's in a slightly better condition. Here, the other one is very, like it's salvageable, but this one here is very rusty on the end, where this is still nice and clean, and everything else looks identical, so I don't think there's any issues there. So we may as well run the cleaner, better looking shaft, if you know what I mean. There's no difference. No difference there, so at least we know that the gears will fit on there and it's not going to be a huge issue. So I think that's what we'll do there. So basically we end up with a really good set of gears inside it, and if he does happen to ever do that Paris to Peking, we can take these other set of gears with him just in case he has a failure, and you can throw a part of it in there to keep it going, if you know what I mean. So he's got a spare set of everything, which mightn't be perfect, but like I said earlier, it's better than no gears at all. Whether the car will handle that, it's fucking like 9,000, it's over 9,000 miles, or it's about 1,700 kilometres, it's 1,600 and something, it's almost 1,700, or it's been over 9,000 miles, so it's crazy, but yeah. So I'll need to do a few double check measurements. As far as I can tell, everything looks the same, but you know, it's one of those things you just need to double check. So we will double check, make sure everything is the same. Those gear clusters, that main gear cluster is the same length. And when we fit it in with those little bushes, it's not tight or anything stupid like that, just in case they did machine them very slightly different length. But it all looks the same, so I think we'll be fine. And if it does happen to have an issue with having two lots of coil back for the oil, because that's what this is for, it's to help the oil run back. So yeah, with having the one on the shaft and one on the housing, if it does happen to be a problem, we'll either modify that other housing to be the same as this, or we will take this off and fill it for epoxy and just run it, you know, clean it out, if you know what I mean, so it's filled up, or something like that. That's the only thing we can really do, you know. Or just having a slightly different oiling system, but almost identical. You know, there's no reason why one should run in the other. The casings are basically identical in that part of it. There's nothing near to change it, if you know what I mean. I'll have a really good look, make sure there isn't any discrepancies or slightly different things, but everything looks the same. So it's just a matter of one's aluminium, one's cast iron, and they changed the way the clutch worked, and they improved the gear set. So yeah, we're just going to put the improved gear set in the aluminium box. So yeah, that's an update for that. 7 minutes later. Right guys, we'll catch you later on. I'll do some measurements and whatever, and I think I'll bugger off home. Righty, so the gear set will fit in there. It's within a couple of thou, basically, you know, from one to the other in length. Basically what I did was I just sat on the bench and just run the thing down it, checked both ways, and then I actually just sat this in here like that, just gently, and then like didn't clamp it up or anything, and then I just measured using the outsider here just to double check, make sure that the discrepancies weren't, you know, something funny, because I can get onto this surface just with this, and it comes down and mates onto that. So yeah, I just double checked, and within a thou or two. So I don't think that should be much of a problem. And I can get it in there. It's just there's a little thrust washer on each end because this cast box doesn't need it. They built it into it, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I'll just that one in because it's easier, I can locate it with my finger, but that one there, obviously when I've been sliding the gears and it's moved. It's got like a little pin, but it's only got one pin to locate it, which is here, one on top. So yeah, obviously when I've been sliding the gears in there trying to get the thing, it's moved. So, but apart from that, it fits in there, and no, I think once you got it in there properly, everything rotates fine, so that's cool. I think we're on a win here. We'll just assemble it, this box, once we get some new bearings and everything like that, and give everything a really bloody good clean up. Obviously clean everything around here. When we put it together, it'll be freaking super clean. But I haven't got any super clean. Just kidding. So yeah, we'll get it all together and put new bearings in it and make some new paper gaskets, and hopefully that the spirals cut in the front shaft and the outer clutch housing, which holds the front bearing and everything in. Hopefully it doesn't cause us any issues with letting oil run out. But they both should make the oil, they both cut to make the oil run back, so it should be fine. Hopefully, if we do have issues, like you will see, we'll either epoxy that up or modify the other one to be the same as that, but just no cutting in the centre of it, so that's cool. The only other issue I think I may run into, this is the shaft out of that set of gears, and it's worn. Bad, yes, no, you know what I mean? Like, it's because it's been always sitting in one place and it can't turn. It is a little bit of wear in it, and that one's the same. This one's, I need to really probably clean them up with a bit of, I'll polish them up with a bit of 2000 or something like that, or even those 3000, and just have a really good look, see which one is slightly better, and put in whatever one is better. Either that, or we get maybe some new ones made, so it's a nice fresh new surface, and it hasn't, because it's got a couple little ridges on it, so that's a possibility too. Whereas I don't think, well, the shaft in here I'd have to have a good look at too. I need to take this one out and get that gear out, but it's only an idler gear for the reverse. Like, it doesn't actually do anything, if you know what I mean. It's just there to run, to help take load when it's in reverse. So now I could just put the other gear back in here and it's not going to hurt anything. I don't think there's much difference. Freaking noisy roof. Rattles when it's freaking. So yeah, this is it here. Like, there's probably no reason why we couldn't just put that one back in that box. But anyway, I think I'm going to leave it there because it's too fucking noisy in here to talk. But yeah, it does fit, and it's almost exactly the same length. It's, as I said, within a couple of thou, so I don't think it's going to be any issue. If anything, really, like, I could maybe, you know, the shims that are each end, or the thrust washes, what do you want to call it, you know, you could maybe, I'll just have to double check to see which one was slightly longer, but maybe you could take a little, you know, just polish a little bit off each end, off, you know, off the back surface, if you really wanted to, just to give you a little bit extra clearance if that was the slightly tighter one. But yeah, you know, like, apart from something, a couple of little things like that, we should be fine. So that's cool. The proof will be in the pudding when we get it running, and make sure it doesn't piss all everywhere and doesn't soak the clutch. Hey guys, if you need welding gas, go see the boys at Cool Gas. If you're in New Zealand, yep, go see these guys. They'll look after you. Cool Gas, New Zealand.